Alright, welcome back everybody. We're up to part 19 of the Dora build and we are getting close to being finished. And why I say that is I have got, if you remember, I broke this down to 4 different steps. I am complete all the way up with number 4, okay? And that number 4 was the larger bridges, getting the gun, what I call the gun carriers on there, and the barrel, and all the extra little parts that had to go on. So the railroad cars are finished. They are in the other room. You'll see that. I'll talk about that towards the end, about a lot of this stuff. And this barrel and all this larger gun carrier, if I'd have been following the directions, we'd have to wait till the very end for me to put on some of these parts. Well, I've got them all on. So the large bridges and the carriers and the barrel is completely done, except for one little part, and I'll talk about that at the end. I don't know if I'm going to put that on there or not. But towards the end of this video, if you want to skip ahead, do whatever you want. I brought up some questions about this thing, some stuff I noticed. And one of the big things I was looking at was this barrel, okay? In real life, I think it's something like 106 feet long. Now, I don't know if that includes from the tip of the barrel to the end of the breech or what, but stop and think about it. How much steel is in that barrel just hanging out there in midair, okay? That's a lot of weight to be just hanging out there. And I'll be talking about this at the end, but I can't help but think that there had to be some deflection in that barrel where that barrel would kind of droop, from all that weight hanging there. I don't know if they took that into consideration when they made that barrel and put a slight curve in it, like that, to take up for any deflection that might come along later. I don't know, but maybe that accounts for the fact that they had to change this barrel out quite often, I would think. Originally, I think they fired 140 or 50 shells through this thing. Only 40 of them were fired during war, let's say. Okay, the rest of it was at a test range. So I think they ran about 150 shells through this thing. I don't know. You know, look it up if you want, but somewhere around there. And then they had to change this barrel out. So I don't know. That may be part of why they had to do that. There just seems to be a lot of steel hanging out there. And we'll be talking about that towards the end of the video. But yeah, all I got left now is this this section right here in the back. That will be step number 5. And once I get that completed and get it on there, the gun will be complete. So, and it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to that. I might be able to get through that pretty easy. You'll see in the video I've been messing around with some of the parts already. Alright, so I think that's about it. But yeah, I bring up some interesting questions towards the end, so you might want to stick around for that. So let's go ahead and let's get into this, because I wanted to get all of this complete, all the way up to this part to where now I start on my last section and I've got nothing else to do. So yeah, that's why I jumped around in them directions. It paid off for me. Alright, so enough talk. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing and where I'm at. Alright, here we are back for another episode of the Dora. I've been doing a little weathering on these rail cars. Alright, I got 8 of them to do, plus the little small bridges. I did them too, and the larger bridges. So I got my little weathering done around the bottom. Like I said, I wanted to kind of dust a little bit of I don't know what you want to call it. But you know that the ballast in that track would be, gravel, and it'd be probably most likely gray gravel that they were using. And as it gets ground up and run over and it starts getting a little powder in it, and then when it rains it would kick it up. You know what I'm talking about. But so I went ahead and did all my rail cars like that. Just misted on a light gray. Now I had two colors I was gonna try out. I had this model, okay, this model color here, this Vallejo, and it was a says Terra Matte, flat earth is what it's called. So I thought, well, do a mud look. But then I got to thinking about that gravel and and stuff. Well, it'd be a light gray. So I had some of this Model Master light gray. It's a number 1732 is the number. So I decided to go with that. And I mixed it up pretty thin in my airbrush, and I just barely was putting it on, just pulling back on that needle, that throttle or whatever you want to call it, just barely getting it to come out so I can get a nice fine dust okay. I think the problem that I got here, and I'll show you how I remedied this, is that 0.5 needle. That's a pretty big needle and it's letting out a lot of paint. I'm going to order me another needle for that thing. I'm going to order me a 0.3 needle. So when it comes to doing stuff like this, I can get a finer, smaller, come out much smaller and finer on it. It's hard to explain what I'm trying to tell you, but that 0.5 needle was just, even though I turned down the air pressure and I thinned the paint way down, I was still getting some problems with it. And here's the problem I got. Let me bring this up to you. Let me find my little finger. Bring this up to you. Can you see all them little specks right there of paint? Little dots all up in here. This part down in here is fine. Okay, I'm happy with that. But there was like little overspray and little speckles of paint went up in here. Okay, well, I wasn't real happy with that. Turn it around a little bit, maybe you can see it. Okay, so I let it dry and I got to thinking about it, and I had this product called Terpenoid. Okay, now why have I got this? Well, usually when I make up my own wash, if I'm going to make up a wash, I'll use an oil-based paint, okay, in a tube, sort of like this here, okay. This is what I'll buy. I'll buy an oil-based paint. This stuff is great. I know you can get, what is it, Terpenoid? Whatever, you can get other products. This is the best thing I found for mixing with an oil-based paint to make my own wash. All right, so anyway, let's get back to where I'm at. So I'm taking this Terpenoid, and we'll stay focused. It's kind of hard to do this and show you what I'm doing. So let me open this bottle up. I got them all done. Everything has already been gone through. This is the one last piece I got to do. And I was going to show you how I did this. Now, because I clear coated my parts, okay, this is not going to hurt my paint job or my decals. My decals and my paint job has been clear coated with about 3 coats of clear. All right, so this is not going to hurt that stuff. It's not going to go past that clear coat. All right, so what I'm doing is, since I only got about a half a bottle, tipping it over a little bit so I can get my Q-tip in there, okay? Got it on my Q-tip. Now that Q-tip is really saturated. So I'm going to bring it over here and just run that Q-tip across there like that. Take some of that off. And then I'm going to go across this top section, okay, where all these little speckles of paint got. Okay, I don't care if it's down below this area, because that would be fine, but I didn't want it up in here because it looks silly, all them little speckles of paint. And this was on, like I said, every one of them. Alright, now I'm going to take the dry part of the Q-tip, go over it and try and suck up some of that stuff, and it'll start taking off them little speckles. Alright, now I'm going to do it again because I can still see a few, but now it's really taking them off. Still in view. You can see, I can see from looking at the lens there that it's going on pretty wet. But that's what you want. You got to get it to get down and break that paint loose. Take it off of there. I didn't want to use lacquer thinner because that's too volatile. But this Terpenoid, it's not bad. All right, and this really was the worst one of them all. That's why I saved this one till last. Alright, I'm just going to go over it. I can catch it in the light. I can see how wet it is. I want to dry it all up and get most of all this off of here. Let me get a new one here, new Q-tip. Dry, get this all dry now. Get that all off of there. Alright. I can see, let me look. I'm worried more about showing you guys and I can't see it all. I had a little bit more right there I wanted to get off. And a little bit right there. This will take out all them little dots that I had there. I'll show you here in just a second. Okay, remember what it looked like? All them little speckles are gone now. Kind of hard focused in this much trying to get this car in the right direction for you. Okay, cleaned it off all them decals, cleaned it off all the top up there, and now it's just from this section down. Looks much better. Now I'm happy with it. I wasn't happy with all them little speckles on there. But yeah, that worked out great. Now I got a little bit of weathering on them cars. And like I said, I did the bottoms of the bridges. Down along there. I might go over this one a little bit more. This looks a little too heavy right in here. Oh, that's the wrong one. Here it is. Just rub it across wherever you got it too heavy or whatever. Don't have to get crazy with it. The more you rub, the more comes off. Okay. See, that took that down a little bit. Now it's not so bright there. Probably not even in view for you. I'm zoomed in so much. There we go. This was a little heavy across this thing right here. I'm taking some of that off. So there you go. So all the small bridges are done. All the railroad cars are done. The bottom of the larger bridges are done. So that's good enough for me. And it's not a whole lot. Once again, I kept it subtle. You know, just enough to show up. You can say, oh wow, yeah, you weathered that a little bit. Okay, I think that's about it. Here's one that's a little lighter, maybe. Okay, but I'm happy with them. It came out just right. I'm glad I went with that lighter gray. I think it came out better than if I'd used this earth color. I don't think it could, you know, I don't know. It's whatever color you want. It's your choice. You pick it. But I like this gray better. Like I said, if that ballast gets ground up and churned up and then it rains and it kicks up that dust, it's going to be that color. Okay, we'll be back in a little bit. Probably tomorrow. I got some things I got to do. Got to go pick up the grandkid. She went to Kings Island with her boyfriend, and she needs a ride home. So guess who gets to go? Papaw. All right, that's enough of that. I don't know what we got coming up next, but actually I think I'm going to take all these cars into the other room, put them on the tracks. I still got to glue up the barrel and all that onto the you know, the gun carrier onto the larger bridge, and I'm going to take all this in the other room and then start on my last section. So that'll probably be the next thing we see. And I had to go back through my videos and see how I had my rail cars numbered. I forgot because I got them all scattered out now. Alright, I'm just babbling on. So there we go. We'll be back. Okay, I forgot to show you this. I think it was in last week's video around the end. I told you I went out and bought these little trays, these little bins. I went over and bought another one. Believe it or not, I filled up 4 of them right now, real fast. They're not real big, so that it don't take much to stick in them things and fill them up. But mostly, you know, it's like most of my little small tools. Here's all my pliers, cutters, all my knife blades and stuff like that. All my tweezers. The larger one, I got all my sanding sticks over here in this one. Some of my glue, but I think I'm going to move that out of there. I already did. Because these little bottles just don't fit in there. They're about a 1/4 inch too tall. But yeah, I mean, you remember that was a mess back there. So I got getting everything put away, getting everything at hand. Like I said, I had stuff in toolboxes, I had stuff in little trays over on the other side of the room, had stuff in drawers. I'm bringing it all together so it's right in front of me and it's organized and it's clean. I cannot stand clutter. So, and then once I get to finishing this model, all this stuff's going to get put away, you know. So I have me a nice clean area. You ain't supposed to be seeing this. So no. Alright, I just thought I'd show you that, you know, this, I forget what those things were. They were expensive. They were like $8 a piece or better. And 4 of them just wasn't enough, so I went out and bought another one today. Alright, we'll be back. Alright, I got the camera in my hand, so it might be a little shaky. But I thought I'd show you what she looks like before I take her in the other room and get her out of my way while I work on that one last section. Alright? I still have to glue on this one gun carrier here yet before I take her in there. But she went together pretty good. I mean, I had to be careful, you know, trying to set her on there. I didn't bump any of them railings or anything. So that's what she's going to look like, minus that one section, like I said. And I think that's probably how I'm going to display the barrel, about, you know, 1/3 of the way up. I think that's probably how I'll display it. Like I said, it doesn't make any difference. You know, it moves anywhere I want to go with it. But I think she's looking pretty good so far. You can see the weathering I did on them cars down there. on the bottom of them small bridges, on the bottom of the large bridge, and on up through the front. Okay, so I got to get that one section glued on. Now I'm going to take it in the other room and get it out of my way so I can finish up that last part. I'll probably be bringing all this back in once I get that last part done. I don't think I need them cars. I don't think, I have to look and see if that last section glues to them cars or not. I don't know. I don't think so. That'll be something I'll have to figure out. Okay, and you can see my gap I got in between the large bridge and that small bridge. That worked out pretty good. You'd have to go back a few videos to see what I done. But that raised it up just enough to make it more prototypical. Alright, we'll be back. Alright, it's been about 4 days since I've been down here and showed you that last section, and I haven't had a lot of time to come down here. I come down for about an hour or so, and I've messed with a few things, but I told you I was going to take all this into the other room, and then I got to thinking, well, I got these other parts I got to get on here yet. And it's been sitting here staring at me for the past 4 days. I got to looking at these cars where I dusted on that light gray, and now that it's all together, it's almost too bright. So I want to dull that down. So I think I'm going to go over all this with that black wash, because that black wash doesn't, it's not real heavy. It's a real subtle wash. And I'm going to go all over this gray where I sprayed it on there. And then I'm going to take and dull coat all that. So maybe that'll tone it down just a little bit. I've been sitting here looking at it, and it's just a little too bright. All right. But you can see here, let me focus in on this. I've been messing with this right here, trying to get this set up. Now, none of this is glued yet. I got to take it all off and paint all these parts, but it goes on this side and on this side. And that's that little platform I talked about a while back. It sticks straight out and it hooks onto that ladder. And then I got this piece here to do. So, and I'll show you some problems. You know, we'll talk about this later. Once I get them on there, I'll show you what I've been studying the model and looking at it, and I found a few things I thought, ooh, that doesn't look safe. But yeah, I got to get those parts are all done. They're all put together. Let me reach over here and get one of these ladders right here that I put together. And let me tell you something. Putting them little rungs on them ladders is a treat. But I don't know if you can see this. The bottom of this ladder here, where's it at? It kind of flares out, okay? But then when you go to put it on the model, there's two little holes there. You got to pinch it together. So I don't know why they flared that out. But and it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. But to get it in them two holes, you got to squeeze it together. All right. But like I said, I've been messing with some other stuff down here. Hold on a second. I got to sneeze. Okay. I'm back. I've been messing with some little parts down here. And let me tell you something. I think I found the smallest parts probably for any model I have ever worked on. Probably for any model ever. These things are so small that I can't. I go to move them around and they get stuck to my finger. I got to keep counting them to make sure I got the right amount, because every time I move them, they'll want to get stuck to my finger. So let me show you this here. Right there they are. Let me zoom in a little bit more on that. All right, there's 8 of those things. Now, here, let me lay something in here. There's my knife. You can see how small those are. I measured them things with my calipers. They're less than 1.5 millimeters big. All right. Every time I think I find something that's so tiny and small, I come across something else, and I think this has got to be it. This is about the smallest anybody can make a part, and make it to a precision where there's a little hole in the center of it that I don't get it, man. I'll tell you, these molding things today, but what they are is I got two wheels here. Okay, let's see if I can get this all in view. I got two wheels here for a part that goes on, and then I got a little axle that goes in between them two wheels. Let me see if we're in view. Nope. Alright, so that axle goes between them two wheels, and you can see that the tip of the axle there, it sticks through that wheel, and those little things here are hubcaps. That's what that is. I guess it's supposed to be like some type of nut that goes on to the very tip of that sticks through that wheel. I'm going to have to get my little tacky stuff out in order to pick them up and put them on, because I can't pick them up with my fingers. Alright, I just thought I'd show you that. So I haven't messed with this, like I said, in 4 days, because I want to come down when I can spend about 6, maybe 7 hours at least working on it. So I'm going to have to, let me back out some more. I'm going to have to take this gun all back apart. I still have not glued this one carriage on yet, but I'm going to have to take this all apart, and so I can get to them railroad cars and work on putting some wash on them, and then spraying some more dull coat on them. So that's where I'm at. After I get them train cars done and get the clear coat on, I can go ahead and reassemble it, and I should have this all painted, get this glued on, get them pieces glued on, and then it can go in the other room so I can work. I've been slowly just messing with stuff for that rear carriage. I put this together. These little things here are what's going to get these wheels, and that there's a set of wheels goes on the front and a set of wheels on the back. That's what they push their shells and powder bags around with. So I've been slowly just tinkering around with some little things, getting some of the smaller stuff out of the way. You know how I am. I jump around on the directions. So I just thought I'd keep you up to date. Yeah, like I said, I got to I got to get that assembled and finish up them cars so I can get it out of here, because I'm sanding on some of this stuff and I'm getting dust on it. But that's okay. I have got this. Ta-da! And this'll clean it off pretty good. And I'm getting dust all over it from sanding, so I want to get it out of here. Oh, see, I just knocked that all loose. So, all right, I think that's it for this section. I think I'll come back when I get my rail cars done and that, see where we're at, get them other parts painted. I got to get some parts painted. And the nice thing is, the more of this stuff I can do, the more I can paint at one time, get things painted up. There's not a whole lot more of this small stuff I can do. I already got my shells done. I did them a long time ago. I got 4 of those. So I got them done. And I got to use some more photo etch. They got a little piece of photo etch right here on that. So, and I still got some more left. There's quite a few little small pieces of photo etch got to go on here yet. And that's all going to go on that rear section. I've been looking at these things. These are kind of complicated. We'll talk about these when I get to it. But there's 4 of these, and they go way back here on the back to support that rear thing. But I don't see anywhere where they glue on to those railroad cars. I think they just set there. They got a little, let me bring this up to you. Maybe you can see this. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Let me lay it down here. What we're looking at is this end down here. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. All right, there's like a hook there. You can see that. And this is the part that comes down to the railroad car. And I thought, well, that must clip onto something. There's nothing back there. I messed with them and messed with them looking at them. And I don't see where there's anything on the rear of that car that can hook onto. And the directions are kind of screwy. When we get to that point, I'm going to show you another mistake in their directions. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. I see how it goes. All right. I think that's about it for this section. Hopefully today is Tuesday. Hopefully by Thursday I can come down here for a whole day and work on this thing. Today being you'll see how far I am behind in posting these videos. This is actually August the 1st. You probably won't see this until 2 weeks. But that's where I'm at. Because I got another video to put up. I think this one's video 19. I got 18 waiting to go. But so probably by this Thursday, today being Tuesday, I should have enough time to come down here and concentrate on that large gun, you know, on them railroad cars. You can see what I mean, how bright that turned out. I was happy with it when I done it, and then once I got it all together and seen it, I thought, boy, I don't know if I like that. So I'm gonna just dull it down a little bit and put some dull coat on it, and I think that'll settle it down. All right, like I said before, this is it for this section. All right, we're back. I consider this 99.99% done, okay? And I wanted to get this all complete and the rail cars all done, which are in the other room. I went ahead and put a wash on that weathering I did. Kind of toned it down a little bit. Looks much better, I think. So the rail cars are all done. They're in the other room. And this is, like I said, 99.99% done. The only thing I have is these little parts right here. Okay? You can see them. And those little things go on. Yeah, let me see if I can show you this. Let me tilt this back without damaging anything. Well, I ain't going to be able to do that. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, there's 4 of these, and they go on down here. Okay, I still ain't in view. Hold on, trying to work the camera with one hand. There we go. They go down here. One on this side, one on the other side, and then one in the back on both sides. Now the problem I got with these is those rail cars that are here, there's railings on them, and these stick through those railings, okay? Which for me, it's going to make it difficult to put this on there because I have to twist and turn it to get this to go through that railing. So honestly, I don't know if I'm going to put them on, because if I ever go to transport this thing, maybe take it to a show or something, I want to be able to take this completely off the rail cars in order to transport it. And I would have to mess with this every time I want to move it or do something, that I have to get this in between them railings on them rail cars. So we'll see. Once I get it all together, it's no big deal. I can just paint them and glue them on there once it's together. But I'm afraid once I get them on there, I might not be able to take it back apart. Alright, other than that, I got everything painted and assembled. I got this platform up here on. I got the ladder that attaches to it. I got the big platform that goes between it. This has finally been glued on, this here section. Let me zoom back in. And now I got to tilt the camera again. Okay, this one whole gun carrier, I went ahead and glued that down and got my barrel in there, and this is all assembled now. So that large platform there is assembled and glued on there. This platform, that ladder, and this smaller platform. Alright, and I think this is going to be the end of this video, so we're going to take a little time here to talk about something. Some things I've noticed. Number one, I see some problems here that I don't think OSHA would approve of. Now, for you people overseas or out of country, OSHA is a government agency here in the United States, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, that oversees worker safety. Okay, if somebody gets hurt on the job, they usually show up and find out if you're doing something wrong. You will get a big fine from them. Well, they got railings all over the place, okay? But there's no railing here on the end between this platform and this platform. There's no railing there. So if a guy comes running down this railing trying to get off the gun and makes a misstep, he's gone. Same way down here. There's a big gap between this railing and this post here for this. That's a fall hazard. And not only that, a trip hazard and a fall hazard. So I've seen some things I don't think OSHA would approve of. But anyway, another thing I noticed is on the inside, when we assembled, some of these parts, there's two platforms like these on the inside, if you remember. I see no way to get down in there. There's no ladders that go down in there or anything. So that's a mystery to me. I guess maybe, how accurate is this model? Maybe they skipped that. But there should be some way for them guys to get to that platform that's down in there. Okay? Whether it be a ladder from the bottom up or a ladder from somewhere up here down inside there to that platform. Alright, let's see what else I got. I'm reading my list here. Oh, a gap. There's a big gap right here between this platform and this platform. That's an ankle buster, big as shit. Right there. They should have had a little section of platform went between these two, but they don't. I want to talk about something too here. This barrel. Let me stand up and get this so I can see what I'm talking about here. Hold on. So we can get this in view. Let me back out. Alright. And of course I got to trip over the tripod. Sorry about that. Now this barrel, I think they said, was 106 feet long. Now I don't know if that's from very tip of it to the end of the breech or if it's just the barrel itself. Alright? But now you stop and think about this in real life. How much weight does this barrel have? And it's hanging out in midair like that. And you stop and think, like, from the heat of the day, there's got to be some deflection in that barrel. that barrel, I can see it not warping, but getting a sag in it. I mean, there's a lot of weight hanging out there. So I don't know how they took care of that. And the problem too, with this being a plastic model, what's going to happen to my model in a couple years from just sitting around, and that plastic, if it starts to deform, first place it's going to show up is in this barrel. Now something else I was pondering about and thinking about, this must be gear driven, okay? This has to be gear driven in here. And that's probably, you know, how they get it to elevate. But what I was looking at is all this weight of the breech and all this here section and all this barrel, all that weight. And let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, you combine all that together, and all that weight is on these two parts. And the guy tells me it's called a trunnion. But there's a lot of weight being exerted on just these two sections here. That even, and then when they fire the gun, the force of the, you know, the recoil and all that, to me that's the weakest part in this whole gun. You got all this mass to support this, and it all comes down to them two trunnions, if that's what they're called, sticking out there. All that force and weight of that gun being fired is being exerted right there. That's a lot, you know. Just the weight of the thing, of this barrel on there is enough. But once they fire the gun, you know, I wonder how long that part of the gun would last. That would have to be some heavy duty steel right there. And like I said, I believe it's gear driven. So you got to have some stout gears. But that's just some of the observations I've been looking at, you know, working on this gun, seeing how it's made, you know. And again too, there's no railing across this area right here. Am I in view? Let me get up here and look. No, I'm not. Keep adjusting here. There's no railing across this thing or this thing. Maybe that's why them holes are in the tops of them boxes, because if a guy falls, he falls into them boxes and then they can retrieve him from underneath. I don't know. But like I said, there's a lot of little safety hazards here. The guy's got to be careful, because I don't think they, you know, when they got the gun loaded and they had to get off of the gun, I don't think they were just lollygagging around, taking their time getting down. Them guys have probably been scurrying and running to get off of this thing. So that's just a few of the little observations, like I said, I've made. But to me, the most amazing thing is these 2 points, you know. Let me turn this around so I can see what I'm pointing at, if you're even in view. No, you're not again. There we are. Those 2 points right there. Man, that's a lot of weight being exerted on that. Okay, well, you know, like I said, I hope it holds together in about 4 or 5 years. My barrel ain't drooping or anything. You know how plastic is. It doesn't really hold its shape real well over time. So we'll see. You know, I guess maybe if worse came to worse, I could always cut it off and order one of them metal barrels. But who's to say that doesn't get some deflection in it over years? I don't know. We'll find out. You know, if anybody's built one of these and it's been about 4 or 5 years, let me know if they got any deflection in that barrel. All right. So now I'm waiting on this to dry. I just put all these parts on here about an hour ago. So I'm waiting for all this to dry, and I think I'm going to hit it with a little bit of dull coat. And the only purpose of that is to protect my paint. If I happen to bump this without having a clear coat on there, that paint's real susceptible to being scratched. So I might just hit this lightly on this section through here. I didn't do the rail cars. I told you I was gonna put a wash on them and then put a coat on there, and I didn't. I think they look fine the way they are. Be all right. All right. So this, once I get this done, dull coating this in about a half hour or so, it's going into the other room. Okay. It's going to get out of my way so I don't damage it or anything. And let me move it over here. Let me back out a little bit. I've started on some of these other parts for the rear section. You can see I got my shells painted. I got a couple of these parts painted. The shells are still in primer. And this thing is, I think, supposed to be some powder bags. And there's a metal part back here in the back that they use with this ram, in conjunction with that ram, to push them bags up in there. And one thing I noticed in my color call out, okay, here it is right here. They want you to paint that silver. That's the back part of this here. Let me show you. You can get it in view a little bit better. That's the back part of this thing. These, I believe, are supposed to be powder bags. And that's the back part where the powder bags, I guess, slip in there, and then they shove it up inside the breech. And they want it painted silver. So what's that tell me? Silver is metal. Okay, it's probably a steel, and it's a polished steel. Well, I think that's a mistake. You do not want steel pushing these bags into that breech. If this was to hit the side of that breech and cause a spark, then bags would go off. All right. I think this should be a brass, made out of brass. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and paint it a brass color, because brass won't cause a spark. So I think they made a mistake there. I think I even seen a picture of it where it was brass color. Okay. So I'm going to make my own call on that. And I'm not going to paint this a steel color, because I don't believe it would be steel. I believe it would be brass. All right. So that's one of the changes I'm going to make on that. And this here is the thing I'm talking about. Let me get it out of here. This would be up against behind it like that. And that's a ram, and that would push that into that breech. Okay. After the shell has been pushed in there. Alright, so I got a lot of this little stuff done. I got these little things painted up. Got them little bitty hubcaps on there, them little bitty pieces I were talking about. That was a treat. What I done was I took some of this tacky stuff, took a little bitty ball of it, and just put it on the end of a toothpick, and had to pick them up and put them on. Okay, so I think that's going to be it for this week. I wanted to get, like I said, all this completed. Okay, all the railroad cars completed, so that when I get to this last section, that's all I got left. And like I said, I had jumped around so much that in the book, where they wanted you on step 40, step 40 was where this goes on, all this stuff goes on, and that I've got that all completed now. So step 40 is complete, and half of step 39 is complete by me jumping ahead and getting that all done now. So I'm finished with step 40, and now I'm starting on, like I said, the rear section here. And I kind of been jumping around in there. I've got these things done. But this goes back and starts at, I think, 28. Nope. 29. 29 to 39. And I'm working on this rear section. So that's all I got to do. so I can get this out of here because it keeps getting dusty. Every time I cut some parts off a sprue and start sanding them, I get dust all over it. So it's going in the other room. All right, so I think next week when we come back, we will be starting on the final section of this build. Might take a couple videos, 2, maybe 3, and then we'll have a finished product. And we'll see what she looks like when she's done. Like I said, I had this on them railroad cars sitting out here. You seen that earlier. One thing I didn't show you is, if you remember, I had a problem with them smaller bridges rocking on them railroad cars. Once I got this on there, and what I did to them smaller bridges to stabilize them, I was giving it trying to rock it, it wouldn't move. Nice and solid now from the few things that I did. Okay, that's it for another week. Yep, I don't think I got anything else to talk about. I think that's it. All right, so we'll see you next week when we get started on that last section. Thanks for watching.